What is up, everybody? It's the Vish Kumaran Show. I'm Vish Kumaran, and we are live reacting to the 49ers 13-0 shutout win over the New Orleans Saints. The 49ers moved to 7-4, still continue to lead the NFC West, and they are coming off of a big win. I think that was the first time since 2002 the New Orleans Saints have been shut out. So they continue their four-game winning streak, excuse me, and I'm here reacting to that. I know it's been a while since I've been live on here. I think about 10, 11 days. I took the Thanksgiving week off. If anybody wanted to see my thoughts on the Arizona game, I reacted live on Niners Nation, the Monday show I do every week with Rob Stats Guerrero, under review with Stats and Vish. We did that as a post-game reaction to the game last week. So if anybody wants to check that out, go to the Niners Nation channel and you can see me reacting to the Niners' huge, I think 38-10 win over Arizona with that offensive explosion. But we're not here to talk about Arizona. We're here to talk about the Niners' performance against the Saints. As always, we're going to go offense, position by position. I'll give you my brief thoughts on everything that happened on that position in each position group. Same thing with the defense. Maybe some talk about the special teams. I don't really know what we can really say about them this week. No big plays, no boo-boos, but not really an overall impression on the game that, maybe needed to be talked about. Then, of course, we'll talk about Kyle Shanahan. He's always a hot topic amongst Niners fans. And then finally, we'll finish with your questions because that's the main reason why we're here, to interact and talk about 49ers football. So let's get to it. The 49ers offense was solid today. I think the one thing that they did that was exceptionally important is that they didn't turn the football over. And that brings us to Jimmy Garoppolo, who did have one errant throw that Alante Taylor picked off. He was looking for a little crossing route to Ray McCloud. I called him Ray McCloud, who was in a crowd. And he slightly overthrew the ball, and it was picked off by Alante Taylor, who returned it very deep into Niners territory. Fortunately, there was a holding call, I think, or illegal contact penalty on the play. Chris Harris Jr. was all over Juwan Jennings, who we'll get to. And so that play was basically negated. And besides that, it was tough sledding for the Niners offense. Speaking of Jimmy Garoppolo, I thought he played very solidly in this game. The Saints have a tough defense. They play a lot of sticky man-to-man coverage. Dennis Allen's a creative defensive coordinator. They did a really good job mixing it up on when they brought pressure and when they didn't. In fact, they got the Niners a couple of times where the Niners were expecting pressure. They kept a couple more guys in to block, and they didn't bring it. And Garoppolo mostly played tough. It was a very gritty football game, and he was taking a beating. He had a couple of really brutal hits that I thought could have been called roughing the passer earlier in the game. But overall, he competed. He played tough. He got a couple of lucky breaks. The one interception we talked about with Alante Taylor, it was illegal contact, but he can't make that throw that way. I think, got a lucky break there. And then the Juwan Jennings touchdown was a bit of a lucky break, right? Again, collapsing pocket. So good on him for just standing in there as he did all game. Really tough and getting the ball out. And he did. And he didn't really have room to step into it. He threw it all arm. And because of that, the ball was slightly underthrown. Tyrann Mathieu made a play on the ball, but unbelievable concentration from Juwan Jennings to make the catch. I don't know if I could say I know there will be a lot of people that will be harping on a couple of things with him, right? The one early miss to Christian McCaffrey, you got to be able to make that throw. That was a nasty route. Christian McCaffrey had Tyrann Mathieu. He put him on skates, and he was wide open, and you got to be able to hit that throw. He didn't hit it, but it's tough. And then the coach brings up the other one, right? It was right there in the red zone. He threw to the concept side, went to the flat to Juwan Jennings. There was a coverage bust where McCaffrey was leaking out on the backside. The way he caught the ball and turned, it was quick game. I'm assuming that they were trying to go out to the flat to Jennings, and it's really hard because McCaffrey, if he's coming out on the backside, he's likely to check down on the play. And so, you would like him to see the coverage bust, but ideally he's just reading out the concept side. It's difficult for him to get all the way backside and know that coverage bust happened. So I wouldn't really put that miss in the flat on McCaffrey on him. But the wheel route definitely was his one big miss of the game, other than the one interception. Overall, I thought he played a very solid game. Again, I can't credit how gritty he played enough. He took some brutal hits, really. There were a lot of hits that were near his head. And he competed his butt off. I thought he moved well in the pocket. There was that one scary hit that was called roughing the passer that actually shouldn't have been roughing the passer because he was outside of the pocket. And quarterbacks outside the pocket aren't afforded protection on the lower hits. And that was the play that he hit Brandon Ayuk and he got up and he was grasping his knee. That was a little bit scary, but he seemed to be all fine. So everything seemed to be good there. I thought he played tough. I thought he played gritty, and I would say he had a solid game. Which brings us to the 49ers running backs, the next position group. It was a tough day for them. First of all, they were banged up, right? Christian McCaffrey was dealing with some left leg issue. Elijah Mitchell was dealing with a left knee irritation, as Shanahan called it after the game, I think. And that kind of took him out of the game. And even when he wasn't in the game, he had that one run near the red zone where it was all Elijah Mitchell. They ran inside zone, nothing there. He just bounced it outside, and you saw a speed and explosion. He had the touchdown run, that on the draw, that was an unbelievable play call in the middle of the 2-minute drill by Shanahan that was called back by a bogus holding call on Kittle. I thought that was not holding. I'm not a big get on the referees, talk about the referees person, but in this game, there were a few questionable calls, and that was definitely one that didn't make sense. Kyle Shanahan freaked on the sidelines. When do you see him freak out like that? It just tells you how egregious that call was. But he's going to be something to monitor, right? We'll talk about it over the week. We don't need to harp on it now, how they'll replace him, what role Ty Davis-Price, Jordan Mason will play. Christian McCaffrey was solid in this football game. He didn't have the kind of game that, we've been accustomed to and spoiled with Christian McCaffrey having. 4 grabs, 17 yards, 11 catches, 32 yards. That's relatively quiet, but it was that kind of football game. It was just two teams, very physical, very gritty, very scrappy, and kind of ugly. It was really ugly. A lot of execution errors, a lot of little mistakes on both sides. And so you wouldn't expect a much bigger game. And then finally, we got to touch on the last guy that looked in, and Ben Poole said it. Jordan Mason looked really good at the end of the game. And we've talked about Jordan Mason before, and I've said, I don't think he's in the trust tree in the run game right now. I'm still not sure if he's there. I think they played him out of necessity today. After the game, Shanahan in his presser was ringing praises for Ty Davis-Price. He said they've been trying to get him active, and the only reason he hasn't been active is because Jordan Mason plays better special teams than him. And so I wonder if Ty Davis-Price will assume the running back 2 role if Elijah Mitchell's out for an extended period of time, right behind Christian McCaffrey, and Jordan Mason continues in his special teams kind of third running back desperation situation role. Well, it'll be good to see. But in terms of how he looked, yeah, he looked good. He ran the ball physically. He did a very good job protecting the ball when he was taking hits. It was definitely something to be excited about. In fact, I should have mentioned it too. Shanahan was also very complimentary of Mason after the game. That should be included as well. So he definitely could be that running back too. I do think there's not a lot to play into the fact that Ty Davis-Price has been active and Mason has been active. I think that's way more about special teams than it is about who they are or where they are as running backs in terms of how Shanahan feels about them. So we'll get to see who really is the running back 2 if Christian McCaffrey is out with what Crow tells us is a strained MCL. Let's get to the wide receivers. Usually these conversations start with, with Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, but I want to start the conversation with Juwan Jennings. I thought he had a terrific game. He made so many big catches on third down. He scored the one lone touchdown in this football game. Again, it was an incredible concentration play on an underthrown ball by Jimmy Garoppolo that was tipped up by Tyrann Mathieu, and then he made a tough catch. Earlier in that 2-minute drive, I thought what was Garoppolo's best throw of the game on a third down where he ripped it over a tight window, absolute strike to Juwan Jennings over the middle of the field. In a collapsing pocket as well. Juwan Jennings also made that grab is what I'm meaning to say on third down. In terms of the other guys, I thought Brandon Ayuk played well. He played as he's always played all season. Pretty consistent, right? Around the 5 catches, 70 yards mark. Looked explosive when he got the ball. Did a very good job after the catch, getting up the field quickly. Ran a couple good routes. I thought The one deep throw on that third down that Garoppolo and him, Paulson Adebo made a play on. Adebo kind of held him, but I also thought maybe Ayuk got a little bit too inside. Mark Sanchez pointed it out during the broadcast. He said that Garoppolo might have been estimating his landmark to be a couple more yards outside, and Ayuk might have been a little bit inside. Either way, they didn't seem to be on the same page on that play, but besides that, I thought Ayuk played very well. I thought Deebo Samuel looked quite good. He's been battling with that hamstring injury. He was battling with it in this football game. He had to be, taken out for a couple plays here and there. He had to ride the bike during the game as well. But I thought he played pretty well. I thought he looked explosive. He had that early shallow cross where he ran completely away from Demario Davis. He had that run play on what, they call duo wineback. That was called back because of a holding penalty, but it was a really excellent run where, it looked like Deebo. He looked fast. He looked good. I think as the season goes on, as he gets progressively healthier, I think the league's going to have to watch out because I do think there's 2021 Deebo Samuel ready to explode. It's just, he needs that full week being healthy, full week of practice. And the league better watch out because, with Christian McCaffrey, Ayuk playing the way he is, Kittle playing the way he is, Deebo Samuel is going to dominate. Which then brings us to the tight ends and the 49ers offensive line. I thought the tight ends were fine in this game. George Kittle had another great game blocking, as he always does. He also had, a couple of grabs. He had the one play in the red zone that, him and Garoppolo seemed to have a little conversation about. And it seemed that they weren't on the same page there. But overall, I thought, the tight ends played quite well. Outside of Kittle, there wasn't a lot of contributions here from either Dwelly or Werner. And then the 49ers offensive line, I thought played okay. It's a tough matchup against the Saints defensive line. Onyemata is a good player. Cam Jordan's an awesome player. Cam Jordan might be going to the Hall of Fame when it's all said and done. Marcus Davenport's a hell of a football player too. They have a lot of, really, really good players across their defensive line. And Shy Tuttle is a good player as well. And given all of that, it was a tough matchup for the 49ers offensive line, who's coming off their best performance of the season against Arizona. I thought they overall held up. Garoppolo did take some hits, but I didn't think there was really anything egregious. It's just a really tough matchup against a very physical football team. And I wouldn't say they played well, but the Niners struggled to run the ball too, but I also thought it was a tough front to go against in the pass game and tough front to go against in the run game. And given all that, given the grinded out kind of football game it was, them not having any plays that really gave the game away, I thought was very important. It's kind of like what I mentioned about Garoppolo earlier. Garoppolo, didn't do anything spectacular today, but it was a tough, gritty football game, and he didn't give the game away. And that itself is half the battle to me. Before we get to the Niners defense, I do want to get to some of your thoughts. Permaculture Now says, hit the like, folks. Let's get the 500 ratio. Yeah, guys, come on, hit that like button. It goes a long way towards helping me out. So please do hit that like button. But El Zorro Senpai says, what are your thoughts about the running backs' injuries? So the Christian McCaffrey injury didn't seem serious, right? He continued in that football game even though he was hurt. And then ultimately, I thought at the end of the game, they just rested him as more precautions. They already had the football game won. I think he's going to be okay. The Niners talked about, when they traded for him, how he takes care of his body at a Nick Bosa level, which means, he's very good about getting treatment. He's very good about doing all the right things to make sure he's ready on Sunday. I'm not that worried about Christian McCaffrey. Elijah Mitchell, I am worried about because he's looked very good when he's played this season, right? When he first came back against the Chargers, he looked excellent. He had a quiet week last week. This week, it could have been a little bit of a bigger week. Of course, the bogus holding call took away his kind of special play in this game. But I am a little worried about the fact that he's gotten that knee injured now 3 times in 2 years. And the fact that he's been unable to stay healthy. I've talked about it with Elijah Mitchell, that I think he runs a little bit upright and that causes him to take a lot of hits on his lower body. And I think that that's why he's unable to last over the course of a season. Of course, playing running back itself, it's difficult to last over the course of a season, just the attrition given and the physicality playing the position. I'm not that worried about his injury. I am very excited about what I think Ty Davis Price can bring to this offense. I very much liked him out of in college, out of LSU. I liked him before the draft, and then I liked the pick, even though I didn't like the 49ers taking a running back in the third round. I liked the player. And so I think that he can be very impactful. I think that he can add an element of physicality and explosion that the Niners offense could use. And so, and I thought Jordan Mason looked quite good and quite tough and quite physical in the little he got to play too. So, as of right now, as long as McCaffrey is playing, I'm not that worried. Although Mitchell's a very good player, that they can't replace him because I do like the two guys they have behind him, especially Ty Davis Price. Now let's get to talking about, the dominant 49ers defense. What a performance. They shut out the Saints first time since 2002. The Saints have been shut out. Forced multiple turnovers. The early fumble forced on Alvin Kamara on the first drive of the game by Fred Warner, who we'll get to talking about him, but what a terrific football player Fred Warner is. And then the late fumble at the goal line that forced by Talanoa Hufanga. And, it gave me, that was Candlestick Park. This was Levi's Stadium, but, it felt like Dante Whitner smacking Pierre Thomas. Now, it wasn't quite the hit that put Pierre Thomas to sleep, but Talanoa Hufanga spoke to Alvin Kamara, around that 2-yard line and forced that ball out. So that was a hell of a play as well. And of course, D'Amico Ryans was terrific as always. He's so creative on third downs with how he creates pressure, how he uses Fred Warner, how he blitzes him. And then, of course, he's also very, very good in terms of just being scheme sound, the way they defend the run, the way they account for gaps, the way they manipulate their fronts to create the right matchups. It's all very, very good. It's an amazing scheme. He's an amazing coach. Let's talk about the 49ers defensive line. So the most underrated thing, and if I'd previewed this game, I would have talked about this a little bit, but I didn't. The Saints have a good offensive line. They have a very good offensive line. They've invested a lot into this offensive line over the years. Cesar Ruiz, Eric McCoy, Ryan Ramczyk. There's a lot of, draft capital and money invested into it, and it's led to a good offensive line. It's a good unit. They've run the ball on just about anybody over this, since the first two games of the season. They have this nice run game with Taysom Hill, Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram. It's creative. It's powerful. They move people with the run game. And so the Saints have a good offensive line. And it's a tough matchup for the Niners defensive line, who's still missing Eric Armstead and Javon Kinlaw, more so Eric Armstead. If you notice, you can see that the Niners defensive line more than ever, even though guys like Hugh Gibbons, all these players are playing well. More than ever, the Niners defensive line has been forced to resort to using stunts and using a little creative things with how they set up their fronts in order to create matchups. And part of that is because they don't have, a guy who could truly wreck the game and win one-on-ones next to Bosa. And that guy for them is Eric Armstead, and he's not playing. And so because of that, I think it is a tough matchup. I thought they played well. Nick Bosa was his usual terrific self, dominant against the run, terrific rushing the passer. There were a few plays that I thought he definitely got held. Unfortunately, those weren't called. Of course, he had that exceptionally clutch sack where I thought he may have jumped off sides on 4th and goal to continue the scoring streak, right? That was the third play to keep the streak alive. The first one was, or the second one, the first one of the red zone was the Hufanga forced fumble, and then the Bosa sack on 4th and goal. Terrific rush. Though I thought he did jump off sides, but he was awesome all game. I thought the Niners defensive line was good. The linebackers were awesome. Fred Warner was everywhere in this game. He was running around everywhere. He was playing so fast, so physical. He was making plays in the run game. He was making plays in the pass game. He was rushing the passer very, very well. I thought it was an outstanding performance by the best off-ball linebacker in the NFL. Dre Greenlaw looked good too. He missed a couple of tackles, but he was flying around and hitting everything that moves like always. I thought the Niners linebackers played very well. I thought their secondary played well too. Charvarius Ward played well as he always does. Diamador Lenore had a very physical, good game. I thought he actually did a really good job on that deep ball to Olave that he got called for pass interference on, which, you had the offsetting penalties with the face mask on the offensive line and the pass interference. I thought that was a little bit of a ticky-tack call. I thought he actually did a really good job getting his head around tracking the ball. I thought he played well. I thought Talanoa Hufanga played very well. I thought this game suited him a little bit more, right? Because he got to play very low and on top of the line of scrimmage, especially when they had Taysom Hill on. Mark Sanchez did an excellent job of pointing out how close to the line he was playing when they were matching that with their base, the Taysom Hill Wildcat kind of setup with their base defense. I thought Talanoa Hufanga was flying around. The forced fumble was obviously a terrific play, and I thought this just was the right game for him to be able to do what he does best, which is trigger quickly against the run, be so instinctive, find the ball, and then hit. Man, the guy just comes downhill and smacks people. He had that amazing hit where it was just great recognition, great instincts. Once he knew the ball was coming down to I think he was a hook curl defender. Um, Actually, I don't know. But he was playing some sort of a lower zone. I don't want to, make an assumption on what he was doing with before I go watch the film and while I'm not here exactly sure. But anyway, he was playing a lower zone. He did a phenomenal job recognizing the ball was going to go underneath to Kamara. He triggered so quickly and he smacked him. And so he played awesome. Tashawn Gibson, Jimmy Ward both played well. Ward had a tough matchup. Chris Olave is a good player, and he's a very crafty player in the slot because he's such a good route runner. He's so refined and polished with his game. He never takes false steps. He's very fluid in and out of his breaks, and it's difficult to tell which way he's cutting. And so because of all of this, it's a tough matchup for Jimmy Ward. He did get Jimmy Ward a couple of times, but I thought Ward did an excellent job. As Ward is prone to do, he's a terrific football player. So I thought the Niners secondary played well. I was shocked by some of the throws Andy Dalton made. I'm not going to lie. Like, Andy Dalton made a couple of plays, especially with his legs, and where he was throwing. The coach says he's playing the curl flat. Could be. I don't know, because they were playing him low. So if they were playing, three safeties, usually you have curl flat when you're playing any sort of cover two. Usually you have a middle hook player when you're playing cover three. I think they were playing single high. I'm not 100% sure what he was doing on that play. He could be a curl flat player. He could be playing a middle hook zone. I'll just save that one for when I watch the film. Though the coach is, he's the coach. He could be right, But anyway, I do think that the Niners secondary played well. It was overall a very strong win. You're going to have these kinds of games in the NFL. I expected them to, come out and have a little bit of an emotional letdown. These things happen when you're coming off such a big win in altitude. The energy of Mexico is with you, all of that. And they had the kind of game they had. And for them to not play their best football, but find a way to, shut out the Saints and win in this gritty, physical manner, I thought was fantastic. And then for them to find a way to, play like the veteran team they are and not turn the football over, I thought it was awesome. And so I thought it was a really, really good win. Again, being 7-4 is very important for this football team. And then to maintain their lead in the NFC West is also very, very important. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the game. I do want to get to your questions because that's the best part of this, especially when the Niners win. We get to do a celebration of it. The coach says, we'll see. I didn't see the best angle either. Exactly. I could be wrong. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not going to pretend like I know what's happening. I'll just go back and watch it later. And I think it's best. The one thing I just want to highlight, it was an awesome play from Hufanga. That's the one thing that does need to be highlighted. And Rick Hogan is also exactly right. For everybody that's complaining about the win, we didn't score enough points. Browns beat the Bucs. Raiders beat the Seahawks. Any given Sunday this year, a win's a win. Exactly. And this is the kind of game that we haven't seen the Niners win. Usually they turn the football over. They find a way to, blow this game when they're not playing their best, right? That was the game against Denver. Atlanta was a little bit like that, little different circumstances. Chicago, again, a little bit like that, little different circumstances. But, these are the kinds of wins you need to have in the middle of the season. You're going to have these grinded out football games against a team that's maybe a little bit better than their record, definitely more talented than their record, just been a little bit injured. And it was a very physical football game, very physical on both lines of scrimmages. and for them to be able to grind it out and not turn the football over is impressive. The coach asks if I do call-ins. I actually do not. Maybe we can give that a try. I'm not 100% sure though. I was considering maybe doing it at some point, and then I was a little freaked with what happened to Jesse and his original channel. I do love interacting with you guys, but I can't say I'm always trusting what's happening. And I wouldn't want that situation to happen to me. And you don't know what kind of people are out there on the internet. If enough people really would like to do some sort of call-in show, I would definitely be open to doing it. Maybe we can do some sort of member system and then do the call-in show for members. I don't know. Maybe we'll discuss something and figure something out. If you really would like members, first drop that, or if you would really like to do a call-in show, first drop the like button and then comment down below that you would like for me to do a call-in show. And if enough people do so, I'm 100% in for it. I just like the interaction again about football, so I'm ready for it. CJ Gray says 4 wins in a row. Heck yeah, I'm very excited about that. Pizza Party says NFC East really sending 4 teams to the playoffs. It's definitely possible at this point. Dallas looks very good. Um, um, Washington is definitely looking good as well. Maybe a little bit better than I thought. I did not expect Taylor Heineke to be playing like this. And Washington has some serious weapons in the pass game. They really do. And so they look good as well. And then, of course, Philadelphia is a terrific football team. Very injured right now. I think they do really miss Jordan Davis, especially if they want to fit the run from too high so much. I think they do miss him just being such a space eater and being able to take on double teams and two gaps so well. But when fully healthy, they're very good on both lines of scrimmages. And if you have a good offensive line, especially with the modern NFL and how poor most teams' offensive lines are, it's a massive advantage. And Philadelphia has the best offensive line in the NFL. And then, of course, there's the Giants, who I think are falling off. The injuries are getting to them. But when you have 7 wins, it's really just a couple more wins with that schedule. They just got to win one of those against Washington, and they got a very good chance of also making the playoffs. The coach says Jimmy G was holding the ball a lot. And I think he was. I think that they actually did a really good job of getting the ball out of his hands on most plays. I think there were a lot of moments where his initial read wasn't open. And that's maybe the thing I was most impressed by with Jimmy G today. He didn't force anything. He had the one bad throw that, kind of they had the bailout call where Chris Harris committed illegal contact away from where Jimmy G was even going with the ball. But I thought he did a really good job overall of, other than that play, of not really putting the ball in harm's way. And he took some shots today, man. He competed. It was a physical football game, and he got whacked. Lakers 24 says they got to do a better job with pass protection. I don't really think so. Ideally, you would like to protect your quarterback better, but it's hard, man. Again, the coach said he was holding the ball. Yeah, he was getting through multiple reads and a progression on a lot of these pass plays. Of course, that leads to holding the ball a little bit and getting hit. And then the Saints have a good defensive line. Those guys get paid too. Cam Jordan's an awesome player. Davenport, Onyemata, Shy Tuttle. I mentioned them all before. Good players. You can't really expect, the offensive line to play the way they played against Arizona in every football game. It's all complimentary. It's all relative. Sometimes, you have to adjust for these things. I think my most frustrating thing sometimes, and not to pick on you, Lakers 24, is sometimes when we do these streams and we do these post-game interactions, a lot of you are expecting perfect in every department. And that's just not realistic, right? The Niners could win a game, and here we are. The offense didn't score enough. This didn't happen enough. And I'm here for that, right? Because we do need an objective perspective, and we have to talk about and analyze what they did well and what they didn't do well. But the reality of football, the reality of life, the reality of the NFL is that level of perfection is not possible on every Sunday. So we have to think, what did they do well? Who are they going up against? What does that team do well? And when we have the conversation about all of these things, I think that it changes. I think it changes completely. And the Saints have a good defensive line. And when you look at how good their defensive line is, and when you look at where the Niners offensive line is and kind of what situations they were put in to pass protect, a lot of third and longs, how they were kind of going up against what kind of fronts in the run game and all of that. It's hard for me to sit here and really rip on them and say they played a bad game. I don't think they played a great game. I also don't think they played poorly. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. When you say something like this, I have to go back and watch the film. I don't know again what coverages were being run, where he was looking to go with the football, who he was looking at. All these things are involved. I don't disagree with what you're saying, the coach, but I can give you a, opinion with great conviction that this is exactly what happened. So I disagree. I'm not ruling out what you said, but I'm not agreeing with what you said either. The film will really tell us what truly happened with him on whether he held the ball and all of that. Hind says, do you think Kyle needs to be more aggressive versus the Dolphins? I thought today was the perfect amount of aggressive. I thought the 2 fourth downs he went for were absolutely the correct call. Obviously, one they got, Christian McCaffrey barely got on a run. And then one was, they didn't get. I actually forgot the play on that fourth and go. Oh, they put the quarterback in the shotgun, and they tried to throw one out to the flat to Kittle. It wasn't there, and then Jimmy G tried to run. He got smacked. And so, I think both of those things were nice. From the 2-yard line, obviously putting your quarterback in the shotgun was not great. It was a little questionable, I'll tell you that. But I don't like to sit here and do the play calling questioning. I wonder what the thought was. It'll be interesting to see what look they thought they were going to get and why they called that play. I can't answer those questions. I can only get somewhat of an idea and maybe have a little bit more educated opinion on the thought process. But yeah, do I think he needs to be more aggressive? No, I think he was the right amount of aggressive. I do think the Dolphins offense is going to be the toughest matchup for the Niners defense besides the Chiefs all year. The speed on that offense is real. I mean, Waddle and Hill scare the crap out of anybody. They're so special. They have the two guys. I mean, I compared Waddle was my favorite receiver in that draft. I was wrong about that. Obviously, Jamar Chase was the superstar. How did I miss that? What a stupid pre-draft take from me. Anyway, but Waddle was my number one receiver, and I compared him to Tyreek Hill. He was the closest thing I've ever seen to Tyreek Hill because he was the one guy that was north and south as fast as Tyreek Hill, but also could change direction and run with the ball in his hands a little bit Tyreek Hill-esque. And when you have two of those guys, it's a game changer. So I think maybe that might lead to him being more aggressive on offense because he might not be able to rely upon his defense maybe as much just because of how special the Dolphins offense is with those two skill weapons and with Mike McDaniel, really scheming it up. But that's a conversation we'll have throughout the week. I'm sure we'll talk about it. I'm going to stream a couple more times this week, so we'll definitely have that conversation. I do watch the All 22. It's something I really enjoy doing. I really enjoy just learning and watching. I'm hoping to do some sort of film breakdown this week. I know I had the one promised a couple weeks ago that was coming with Tart, and then life kind of happened where he wasn't free and he had to push it a day, and then I got sick a little bit, so then I couldn't do it, and then so it didn't really work out. I'll see if I can pull it through for this week. Just because I think it's better to get somebody, for all of us to learn from somebody so smart and somebody who's, been involved and can actually show us. And it's a great guided educational experience, and I'm looking forward to it. And hopefully I could get that done and set that up. Daniel Meyer says, that was a bad take, huh? Whew. The coach says we put up as many points as our defense tells us to. We are a defensively led team. I know it's hard to grasp the concept, but the offense supports the defense, even with Kyle. Yeah, he's absolutely right. And I don't think that's really a reflection. And that's just complimentary football, is what I'm meaning to say. Kyle Shanahan has to do ultimately what's best to win the game. And I think as much as I at times would like him because I'm such a big fan of Shanahan, I think he's so good as an offensive play caller. I would like him to be aggressive. I think one of the better things about him that he's shown as the coach of the 49ers is he doesn't coach with his ego. He doesn't come out here and try to score 50 points with his offense because he's such a good play caller. He doesn't unload the kitchen sink. He tries to be as complimentary as possible. And if he needs to win with his defense, he wins with his defense. Sometimes, in fact, he's too contented winning with his defense. But it just shows his maturity as a head coach. I've always been impressed with his ability to see the entire picture, right? If you look at the organization he's built, the structure they have, they've talked about how much clarity he has on what he wants at every single position on the football team, and he conveys that to scouts, and he's an excellent communicator of what he's looking for, which has helped their process with how well they've drafted undrafted free agents, late round draft picks. It's because you're looking for specific traits. You're able to be so successful, and then he's so good at coaching and developing. So he sees the entire picture really well, and I think this is a great example of it. When he was hired, I'll never forget Charlie Casserly, who was the GM of the Texans when Shanahan, got his first start after being the quality control for John Gruden in Tampa Bay. He was the wide receivers coach for a couple of years, then the quarterbacks coach, then the offensive coordinator. He said that in 2006, Shanahan said they should take Mario Williams over Reggie Bush, and that impressed him at the time because, Shanahan was on the offensive coaching staff. He was such a young guy, and he still had the perspective that it was better to take the stud defensive lineman over, maybe the most electric player in the history of college football, and Reggie Bush. And so because of that, he's always had a great idea of seeing the entire picture. And in this case, I think that, at times he could be a little bit more aggressive, but he's just doing whatever he can to win that game. And a lot of times being complimentary and controlling the game with your offense is a little bit more beneficial for that. Flav says, is it Flave or Flav? I'm going to go with Flave given the apostrophe above the E, but either way, he says, yo, Vish, JG has the best record through 60 games of any 49ers QB ever. Gritty performance today, but one primarily on his arm. Quote unquote wins are not a QB stat at what one point to fans have to accept he's very good. So Flav, you are exactly right. Wins are not a QB stat. I am a parader of it. I'm a believer in it. I do not believe we evaluate the quarterback through wins and losses. We evaluate by what he does on the field. The throws he makes within the context of the game, how he processes it. We evaluate the position isolated solely with what he is asked to do and how he executes what he's asked to do. We don't do it by wins and losses. Wins and losses are a team stat. So you're 100% right there. I agree with you. At what point do fans have to accept that he's very good? What do you mean by very good, right? Very good is a very relative term. Is he very good quarterback relative to everybody in life? Yes. Is he a very good quarterback relative to the 200 quarterbacks that play in the NFL? Yes. Is he a very good quarterback relative to the 32 starting quarterbacks? I would say he's good. I don't know if I would go to very good. Very good means top 10 to me. I don't think he's a top 10 quarterback. I do think he's definitely in the top 15. I think he's closer to 10 than he is to 15, definitely with how he's playing this year. But at the same time, I do think, we do have to take into context the throws he's asked to make, the weapons he has, the coach he has, the scheme he plays in. All those things need to take into account. But you're right. We can't admit that he's playing great football right now, the best football of his career. He's taking care of the football very, very well. 4 straight games without an interception for the first time in his career. That's phenomenal. I think all of those things are great. And I think we can all admit that he's playing good football. And the 49ers definitely have a very good chance of winning the Super Bowl this year as long as he stays completely healthy. And that's, if you're a quarterback that can do that, you can be looked at as a good quarterback, in my opinion. Appreciate the donation, by the way. Haha says, ooh, Flav can't tell. All right, I don't. This is a PG show, so I'll say plays can't tell shite from Shinola. I'm not exactly 100% sure what that means, but it sounds like you guys have a little bit of a thing going on. CJ Gray is also going at Flav, overboard with the Jimmy takes. So you guys have something going on. I'm missing out on something. The comment section does not like Flav's Jimmy takes, I see. Pizza Party says Jared Goff has a similar set through 60 games with a Super Bowl loss, just like Jimmy. Absolutely true. Jared Goff does have a lot of wins and losses. I will say I think Garoppolo is just a flat out better football player than Jared Goff. I think he deals with pressure better than Jared Goff. I think he does a better job throwing with people around him. I think he's a little tougher than Jared Goff. I think he's just flat out a better quarterback. There, Jared Goff for sure. And yeah, US USMC hashtag 49ers says not a Jimmy G fan, but he worked in his and the Niners favor. He's not a very good QB, but he has the opportunity before him to be. Yeah, he's a good QB though. He's a good starting quarterback. I think no matter what, he's about to get a lot of money this offseason. I think that's kind of set up real nice for him. He's going to be starting somewhere. In fact, maybe he comes back to the 49ers. Who the heck knows? At this point, all options can be open. I thought he's managed the business of how he's handled his career and how he's handled the 49ers kind of perfectly. I thought this offseason kind of worked out great for him, given, where the situation started and what kind of went on. Credit to him for dealing with the rehab, dealing with, being in the trade talks, all of that, coming back here, having to stay with the Niners another year and play very well. And yeah, he's playing good football and he's not turning the ball over. And the coach says it exactly right. Man, maybe we need to get you on and just call this the coach show because you're killing it right now. Yeah, the Niners offense is top 10, right? It's 8th in the league. And they have the number 1 D in the NFL. And I think that in terms of scoring, I think they're second in the league to the Chiefs ever since they got Christian McCaffrey. This offense is not nearly as bad as people would like to think. Offensive football right now across the league is down. In my opinion, it has a lot to do with where offensive line play is right now. And then just with, all the too high defenses are playing, it's just making it harder to throw the football. And so because of that, I don't know. I think it's a good offense. I think it's a great defense. Unlimited Joker says it didn't look like top 10 today. It can't look like top 10 every week. Look, the only offense that comes in and no matter what, it's unstoppable every week is the offense with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. And okay, I'll say this. I think this is a little controversial, but I think Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback I've ever seen. And so, okay, if you pair him with Andy Reid, you give him a Hall of Fame tight end and Travis Kelce, okay, I understand. Yeah, their offense is unstoppable. But other than them, every offense is a little bit inconsistent week to week. These things happen. They were going up against a tough defense with a tough front. They were coming off a short week, playing in altitude right after Thanksgiving. These things happen. Overall, they didn't turn the football over. They didn't make any bad mistakes, and they scored enough points to win the football game. Their defense was outstanding. Their defense has been outstanding in every game besides the Chiefs game this year. And yeah, I don't know what you guys expect. Do you expect them to score 38 every game? Because I'm gonna it's gonna be disappointing. And he says, not saying it has to be top 10 every day, but 13 damn points. Well, that could have been they kicked the field goal at the end of half. That could have been 17 points, right? If the Elijah Mitchell run wasn't taken off the board, right? So that was there. It was a controversial holding call, right? There were a few things in this game that went a little bit either way that could have caused, things to be a little bit different. It's tough to just man, it's tough to just sit here and have this conversation. I'll go back and I'll watch play by play and I'll tell you what I really think of the Niners offense. I don't want to give any I don't want to, be a little bit complacent or hasty in passing judgment on what they did today. This was kind of my opinion on the raw, just TV watch, but that also you're dealing with the up and down emotions of the fandom and just enjoying the game. So I can't promise that what I'm saying right now is 100% what I'm going to truly believe as I go back and watch this game a couple more times over the week and all of that. But I'm going to save what I have to say for that just because, yeah. Flav is coming back, and he says, LOL, people are mad because they want to dump Jimmy for nothing 3 months ago, and I said absolutely not. Now he's saving our team. Hard on their ego. Well, Flav, I'll tell you this. I was one of those people, and I'm going to say I was wrong, right? Now, I don't think the situation, because Trey Lance got hurt, I think the situation kind of materialized in a way that the reason people like me were maybe had a little bit of hesitancy to think that keeping Jimmy was a good idea That was the variables were completely changed now that Trey Lance was hurt. But yeah, absolutely. Keeping him was the right move. It was a great move by John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. They deserve credit for it. They're 7-4 because they kept Jimmy Garoppolo. Who knows what this team would be even if Brock Purdy had to start. So you're absolutely right, Flav. Congratulations on that one. You nailed that take, and you're right. It is hard on my ego, but yeah, I was wrong. And there you go. The Saints are actually a good defense. Thank you. Although, yeah, coach, uh, let's just rename this to the coach show. I'll just read his comments because he's just giving out my thoughts perfectly. He's summing up everything I needed to say. Haha says quarterbacks don't suddenly improve in year 10. Jimmy G is the same he's ever been. It's the team around him that determines the outcome. You're absolutely right. Although I do think he's playing more consistent and efficient football in a different type of way. So the team is better around him. They do, elevate him. He hasn't improved in any way physically, but I do think he's doing a couple things better, right? Where he used to be a little bit bad, recognizing his hot first, the blitz. He's not missing easier stuff like that. He's just playing a little bit cleaner. He's playing a little bit mentally cleaner. He's not playing as sloppy. He's playing a little bit more polished. He's playing more like a veteran. And I think all of those things are just the growth of him, having 60 starts under his belt. And so, yeah, it's not to say I think he's like a better quarterback in year 10, but I do think he's now much more efficient and cleaner quarterback, or at least he's been, ever since this Denver game. We'll see if that continues over the course of the season. But right now, this 4 straight games without an interception is a pretty impressive streak for him. I do have to say that you guys do need to smash that like button. I don't know where we are, but let's get that ratio. Come on, guys, smash that like button. It's always helpful. I got the subscribe right here for you guys to subscribe. D Moore, you're right. I need a haircut so bad. It's really bad. I do need to get a haircut. Like, I just haven't been able to go get one, and then I just keep putting it off. Part of the reason, like, I have to go take a shower before these streams because, like, usually if like I take a shower in the morning, my hair dries, and then I have like a little afro kind of thing going on. And then I come on here. So yeah, I do need to get a haircut. You're right about that. Ben Poole asked who are the 2 players the 49ers cannot live without. He said, I'm thinking Charvarius Ward and Trent Williams. Come on, Ben Poole. This is a layup. You didn't even mention the first player. The first player is Nick Bosa. They can't live without him. There's no Super Bowl or bust without Nick Bosa. And then the other player, I would say is Trent Williams as well, but it's close with between a couple other people there. But yeah. Pizza Party says people in my office know you're a YouTube star. First of all, I don't know about star. I think a YouTube star is Grant. Grant's a YouTube star, I would say. I'm one of many people on YouTube. But a couple people in my office found out. But yeah, I don't really try to publicize that for obvious reasons because, at times I'm tweeting and sometimes on here during work hours. I make up that time other times, but yeah, I don't want to be creating any controversy or all of that. So yeah, no, I don't really mention that. A couple more questions, and then I think we'll call it. I do want to go and watch the Sunday night game. I think a lot of you would like to too. I appreciate 156 people being in here. Instead of being in the Sunday night game, it means a lot. Go hit that like button. Come on, guys. And then the coach did ask about the call-in shows earlier. If you are interested in me doing a call-in show, maybe we could set up something to do that. So if you would like to do that, please comment below that you would like me to do the call-in show. If I get enough people to comment below, then we'll set something up because obviously we're here to just talk football. And if you guys think talking football that way is better, then that's better. Jesse says, love you, Vish. Can I have your autograph? Jesse, I think they need to get your autograph first, but you can absolutely have my autograph. I've never been asked to sign anything for anybody, so I know you're joking, but I'm going to take this very seriously and send you my autograph, just because that makes me feel very good. Niner Gang Wolfcast says, do like. I'm going on with Niner Gang Wolfcast on Tuesday. I think we worked out the time to be 7:30 Central, 5:30 Pacific. So make sure you subscribe to his channel so you won't miss that stream. I see him in the comments section supporting every YouTuber. I think it's high time every YouTuber goes and supports him. Make sure you go subscribe to Niner Gang Wolfcast. Derek Taylor says, thanks for the coverage, Vish. I always enjoy it. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoy it. I'm really here just for the interaction. My coverage only exists because you guys are there. You guys are the ones that dictate what we talk about, the conversations we have. You guys ask the good questions. All of this is just our interaction as fans, and I really enjoy that. And so thanks to all of you, because without your support, none of this would exist. Unlimited Joker asks a good question. Still, don't you think the trade for Christian McCaffrey was necessary, considering we're a little thin at defensive tackle? That's like a double negative. But basically, I think you're asking if I think it was necessary given how thin they are at defensive tackle. It didn't prevent them from making any moves, right? They still went after Ndamukong Suh. He just chose to sign with the Eagles. I think it was necessary for where their football team is. I think Christian McCaffrey is a player on a Hall of Fame track right now. And if you have the opportunity to trade for that talented of a player, even if he does play the running back position, which is a position you may not value, I certainly don't value it as much. I'm analytically driven that way. You do have to make the correct decision for your football team. I do think it was the correct decision, though, to trade for Christian McCaffrey. You don't miss out on opportunities to trade for that caliber of a player. Yeah, I'm not even going to read this. You guys should read it. I just put it up because the coach doesn't miss. Every comment, he's right on. The Fish says Vish is him. Well, I appreciate you are him too, the Fish. Or Fish, not the Fish. All right, guys. Ooh, there we go. Jesse says Vish definitely doesn't tip his takes. No tell exists. I actually do tip my takes. If you notice, my left foot's back on takes that are going to be perceived as hot, and then my left foot's even on takes that most people think are, not interesting. So I do tip my takes. You just can't see my feet, really, Jesse. You just got to get a better camera. Because my camera right now is like instead of all 100 where it's showing 100% of me, it's all like 20%. It shows only 20% of me, so my tail can't be seen. But thank you all for joining. This is always really fun. We are on a 4-game win streak, as USMC says. Ooh, I dropped a wee there. I usually don't like dropping the wee, but that's how excited I am that the 49ers are first in the NFC West. And 7-4 and on a 4-game win streak. And Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't thrown an interception in 4 straight games. Flave and USMC are going at it a little bit. Do I need to end the stream, or do you guys need a little bit more time to continue your conversation? Nah, I'm messing with you guys, but thank you all for your support. It's always super fun to come on here. It is a normal week, so I will be on tomorrow on Niners Nation with Rob Guerrera at 10 a.m. Pacific time, so you can kind of get into work, finish your morning stuff, and then join in 12 p.m. Central. So if you're in that Central time zone, that's right during lunchtime, and then 1 p.m. Eastern. So you can take, a little extra lunch if you want to listen in, but make sure you tune into that. I will stream also a couple more times over the week on here. We'll preview the Dolphins game, which is right now looking like the marquee matchup of the week. We're talking about, two teams that I would say are amongst the 5 best teams in football right now. And so it's very exciting. And so there's a lot to talk about with this Dolphins game. I'm very excited. Raheem Mostert added a lot of fuel to the fire this morning with him and Jeff Wilson's quotes. We'll talk about that for sure. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Again, thank you all for joining. Please like, subscribe, share, comment down below on how excited you are on the Niners being first in the NFC West. Talk about a Freudian slip. The NFC West, and I should do a college show. and I will see you guys all soon. Thank you.